What up, Naughty Steppers? It's Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Nawtystep channel, and it is time for another Extra Nawties monthly roundup. Gonna go over some EPs, albums and compilations that I wasn't able to review in full, but that I still thought interesting enough to share my opinions on them with you. These are shorter reviews because there is a lot to get through, so I'll just be identifying my main points with each one and maybe showing you something that you hadn't heard of before. Stuff released on the 27th of September and after will not be reviewed in this video but the next. Some of the releases in this video are from the end of August, and the releases are covered in alphabetical order by way of artist name or record label name if it's a compilation. Lastly, there will also be some special mentions linked in the description box down below, which I couldn't review in this video because then there would just be too many, but if you haven't checked them out already, then I suggest you do so. And so kicking off this latest installment, we have the Black Friday compilation, Volume 22. Not the best Black Friday EP I've heard, but a good collection of artists and some sweet moments here. Particularly from Triple in his track Bad Trip. Been enjoying his output recently and hopefully that continues. I also liked the Ad Astra, Al Ross and Panda collaboration a decent amount. Nice intro, thudding dubstep. Good times. Always difficult to get a compilation that's brilliant the whole way through because it's several different artists, but as per, the sound quality is very on point throughout. See you in a month for volume 23, I suppose. Maybe this is a false interpretation, but this album wasn't what I expected it to be at all, and in a good way. I thought it would be much more glaring, ostentatious, in your face, but in reality it's a very genuine, playful album. Lots of experimentation, deep bass lines, quirky effects, just a really fun listen from beginning to end. Mostly pertaining to a jungly, tribal, animalistic vibe and aesthetic, but with a lot of variation sonically across the 8 tracks. As with any album, has its dips, but it's a very welcome surprise, fully recommend to any bass music fan. My man Xavier has put out some fantastic music this year, and I'd even go as far as to say that his style is up there with my favourites at the moment. But I wouldn't say this EP displays a progression or development on that style. It's simply more of the same from him. I enjoy it because it's so distinctively his, but the ideas here don't rank alongside his best of this year by any stretch. As always though, excited to hear what he comes up with next, and where he takes this style, if anywhere, in 2019 and beyond. Really can't believe how something like this goes so under the radar. I only found out about it the other day. But I mean, it's an album from one of the OG dubstep producers, Caspa, and pretty much what you would expect in that sense. Lots of old school sound usage, some of it in more modern frameworks and structures, but for the most part, just a really nice throwback. Weighty acidic wubs, bare percussive structures, mystifying introductions. It's got the lot. Yeah, I mean, not much else to say. If you're into that old school sound, then you will definitely enjoy this. I, for one, am very happy that sounds like these are still around. Almost every time I come out of listening to music from Chi, I find myself remarking on how we need more stuff like it. Far beyond the norm, pushing the boundaries, challenging our understanding of bass music, just very good for the scene generally. Not the easiest stuff to get into at first, but the more you listen to it, the simpler it gets to immerse yourself in its complexities. Fires in all directions, but it's not too random, just a really well-rounded assortment of noises and effects. The sound design is pretty mad too. As I said, you may not enjoy it initially, but give it a chance, it'll grow on you, I promise. Similar to most, I think, first became familiar with the mysterious new producer Death Pact following Rez's latest album, on which he, she, they featured. This is really good. Proper atmosphere to every track, dark in essence throughout, but with enough splicing of feeling and style that it constantly has your attention. Kinda holding you in the palm of its hand by taking you on a real journey and completely playing with your head. Not giving you a moment's rest as it goes from one mood to another, dark undertones pervading throughout, uncomfortable in the best way. Just so much of this EP is ridiculously well cut and thought out, real presence to every track here. Can't forget the brilliant 5-second intro as well. I won't spoil it for you, just give it a listen. But the big question remains, who is Deathpat? Some have said Madion, but I'm happy to leave that matter alone, it adds more intrigue that way. Don't think I'd listened to this much Dirt Monkey in one go before, but I was definitely up for it considering what I had heard previously. And this doesn't surprise on that front, properly vivid, wobtastic music, lots of fruity twists and turns, very flavoursome indeed. Just impossible not to have a little jig to loads of the tracks here, which I don't think you can say for most other dubstep styles out there. Some ideas I like more than others, quite a few moments where not quite enough is going on and there's a bit too much space. But that's to be expected, the quality and colour of the sounds on show is more than enough to carry it through. Hadn't actually heard Hesh's music before seeing his set at Lostlands, where it's safe to say he properly threw down. Shout out my Vloglands crew. So I came into this EP thinking it would run along the same sort of lines as that set in terms of style, bright, unforgiving, ravenous, Bridimy music. And that's what you get here, 5 pretty huge rap-infused dubstep heaters that leave no survivors in their wake. Production is unusually tight for this kind of music. The ideas aren't insane, but the quality of the sound keeps you fully engaged. Honestly, very happy to have found out about his stuff. A great listen if you enjoy seriously heavy, well-structured dubstep sounds. Definitely one of the best EPs of this kind in recent memory. Looking forward to what he puts out in the future. Definitely an EP of 2 halves here from Heavy Pulse, covering a fair amount of ground across the 6 tracks. The first 3 providing riveting dubstep drops, booming percussion, spacey, intergalactic, surround-sounding effects, and the following 3 are much more musical-leaning, equally outer-worldly but much more melody-driven. A soothing end but complete juxtaposition from the first half, meaning it really is split down the middle stylistically. Personally, I would have liked to have seen them interspersed, but it's an interesting approach, and certainly tells its own story that way. I was expecting a standard trap EP here from Krishan, considering it was a Quality Goods Records release. But honestly, this is one of the strangest, most interesting listens I've had this year, and I'm not going to say anything else beyond that, just give it a listen. Artwork is absolutely stunning as well, by the way. Wasn't too big on these remixes in all honesty, hardly anything that's really throwing me here. Think I've said this before, but it's always hard to get a very good remix compilation. Loads of different styles thrown together, and everyone working towards a schedule, meaning that some of the tracks are gonna be rushed. Which seems to be the case here in a way, and whilst there is variation on this remix compilation, it's not on a level with the original album itself. But anyway, for the record, my favourites come from Calcium, Oolacile, The VIP, Tigers and Odd Prophet. Interesting to see Megalodon changing things up here slightly, less overtly underground tunes this time around. More pace, more of a brostep influence, as the release on the main Never Say Die label, as opposed to the Black label, would suggest. Just a little more alive than usual, tracks not spilling into the late 4 and 5 minute mark. Definitely new territory for him. Would say I prefer this approach. It definitely sounds more enjoyable to make, but I mean, who knows what side of him we'll see in future releases. Also got to shout out the Phase 1 remix here, lots of gnarly sounds, very distinctively him. Decent remix. Honestly, listened through this thing a fair few times now, and I'm still not sure what I think of it generally. It has its moments, Galorm in particular, but is another reminder of how I constantly dip in and out of liking his style. The sound design is mad, but I don't see much ingenuity beyond that. It's a bit of a drag to listen to in spite of all the sounds being so fresh and clear. I suppose because the bringing together of those sounds, for me at least, is a bit too clunky, messy and muddled. Some people really like that style and I can imagine why, but it just doesn't really appeal to me unfortunately. Again though, amazing artwork for this project, cool title as well. One of the more lively, animated deathstep EPs you're likely to hear from Ryvie, real zing and bite to this thing. Has some of the allure of a normal deathstep project, but sacrifices some of that for a bit more outright headbang worthy stuff. Very energetic and eager to impress, points where the balance between sounds doesn't quite come off, notably in some of the drops. But overall it's a solid collection of tracks and one that I will keep returning to because of its ability to constantly keep you guessing throughout. Would definitely recommend for those trying to get into the deathstep genre. I've really liked Samplifier's output over the last few years, really felt there was something unique to his sound compared to a lot of other dubstep out there. But I can't say that I'm that into this EP, something about the sound design across the 4 tracks that doesn't quite pop for me. Some of the ideas are good, like in Cash for example, and generally I think there's a pretty awesome selection of acidic dubstep sounds on show. However, there's nothing that truly wows me. It's not even that it sounds remarkably similar to other stuff out there, just there's something that doesn't quite click when I listen to it. As if it's not quite going that extra mile. Having said that, this is coming from someone who expected a lot from this EP, so maybe that's the real problem here. Similar to the LAXX remixes, little that I enjoyed here to be honest, considering what a star-studded lineup it is. Many producers here that you would really rely on to bring the goods that just don't. A lot of plain ideas across the 10 tracks. Again, this is the problem with remix packages, everyone working towards a set schedule. It's bound to produce some weak results. For the record though, my favourite was Uber's, proper gruesome and brutal, everything that you would want in a remix from him. Mastodon's was also a bit tasty, and the rhythmy progressions to the drops in the Virtual Riot and Snails collaboration were naughty AF. Quite simply, this is a compilation comprised of some of the best in the business when it comes to thumping, atmospheric mid-tempo music. Featuring some of the best up-and-comers from Volic to Social Kid, Zabo to No Etiquette. Could be Zabo actually, I could have been wrong on that one, so please tell me if I was wrong. An absolute must listen if you're even remotely into mid-tempo music. This is a real demonstration of just how powerful this style can be. Loads of emotion running through it, booming backdrops, really weighty synths across the board. I mean, what's not to like? Definitely moments where a little more refinement could have been had in terms of the relationship between individual sounds in some of the drops. But I think if there's any release that I would recommend you have to listen to from this monthly roundup, it would be this one. Pure bliss for any bass lover. Been listening to a lot of Tigers recently and been pretty mixed in my views of their stuff so far, and this EP is a reflection of that. Coming in at 3 tracks, one song I enjoy a fair bit, the other not so much, and the last one somewhere in between. It's great how they can produce in such different styles and have their very full, plump sound translate in all of their songs, but the progression of them needs to be more purposeful and organic. At the moment they go off in too many unexpected directions for me to really get into them. I was pleasantly surprised by this EP. I've only ever really known Wild Boys to be about straight up, forceful dubstep bangers. And don't get me wrong, there is some of that here, but we also get a bit of jump up at the start in the first track, and that was just a really nice way to introduce the project for me. Moreover, the dubstep is pleasant, hard-hitting but not too in your face, a wavy design to it, and some sweet vocal samples to boot. Yeah, I mean, this is a good EP, recommended listening from your boy. Check it out, fellow dubsteppers. And so that brings the September 2018 edition of the Extra Nawties monthly roundup to a close. A lot to get through once again, but thank you all very much, and as always, for tuning in. A few others from September 2018 that you guys might enjoy, special mentions if you will, that I mentioned at the start. So who have we got here? We've got AC Slater, Crisis, Downlink, Kron, Lockjaw, Ray, Ricky Remedy, Subdoctor, and Subject 31. I shall put all the links to those in the description box down below. And I really stress checking those ones out as well because who knows, you might like them more than I did. Generally though, September 2018 was another crazy month for dark electronic music, as you can probably tell considering the amount of releases there were. Especially when you take the Dubloads EP and the new Getter album into account as well, reviews of which are up on the Nawtystep channel. But with regards to the EPs, albums and compilations reviewed in this video, which ones did you enjoy, which others not so much? Are there any that I missed out? Did I mention some that you hadn't heard of before? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this monthly roundup, then be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hitting the notification bell along the way. Next to my head, there should be a link to another Extra Nawties monthly roundup if you're looking for some more dark electronic music tunage to sink your teeth into. Links to all the projects discussed in this video, as always, are in the description box down below, as well as all the Nawtystep social media accounts, so get following those if you haven't already. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Peace out.